That time of year again, Halloween. Kids dress up as Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles. Adults even have their own cosplay. Dress up as the Joker, Superman. But there's this one particular costume that doesn't take much effort and is popularized by the community heavily. But let's go back to where it all began. So in 1951, 20,000 Viet troops launched a series of offensive attacks against French positions in northern Vietnam. JFK visited Vietnam and questioned American support for the French. Strategic thinking helped spark the events of this so-called Vietnam War. Also in 1951, in Northeast Bronx, we have a married couple that introduces a little boy into the world. His name is Anthony Curtis. He also has an older brother named Edward. I come to this conclusion because in 1968, he worked for Denson Dairy as a milkman, and as his payment, he would get a ride to school. It was his last year of school, confirming that he's 17 years old.
You two realize that soon we're gonna be out of school, right? Ooh, sure.
He had two main friends, Skip and Jose. He told them he had big dreams of traveling, but he had no way to really doing that. The fact that he didn't have any money coming in from the dairy job until he started working for this guy named Kirby. Kirby was a Korean vet, and he had his hand in the nimble business. A lot of African Americans were in this business. Most notable person was Bumpy Johnson and his team in the 1920s and the 1930s. I don't think they were affiliated with Bumpy because he died in 1968, and prior to that, he did 15 years in prison. Well, Anthony came from a good family, and everyone wanted him to go to college after high school like his brother, but like any kid, he didn't want to continue to go to school. He wants to join the military, and he thinks this will help him become a man. So he pursues it and takes the test. 9 times out of 10, he observed his surroundings and see how his family is structured because his dad was a Korean War vet. Now, I get where he's coming from because myself, I was pressured into going to college from my family, and everyone wants you to have a certain image. I think he made the right decision for himself. Graduation rolls around, and he is celebrating it like any other kid with the graduation party, and he hooked up with this girl named Juanita, the girl of his dreams. And she knows about his dreams of joining the military, and she wants to wait for him to get back so he can marry her. He goes and joins the Marines in July of 1969 and sent off the basic training. Now we know this because he was talking to Skip, and he mentioned that he's been in Vietnam for a second tour in 1971. A tour is roughly a year long. 1971 subtract 2 years is 1969. Now, let's hop in the year 1971 real quick. He is at war. The earlier segment in 1951 really puts the narrative towards the Vietnam War, and he was dead smack in it, especially with his arrival of the Quang Tri Providence on April 16th. Just like the history book says, they were overrun and artillery fire was the only way of escaping it, even though I didn't see any VNMC present. Miraculously, his friend Skip joined the military, and somehow he got paired with him. He also met another good friend, Cleon. We could get deep into this, but let's take a good look at Anthony. Now, after doing 2 years, it looked like he has a patch of a Lance Corporal. He is part of a deep reconnaissance unit and the USMC from the pin he wears on his uniform. His weapon of choice is crucial to his role as a person. Recon has a few primary weapons they choose from: a M4, a M60 machine gun, and a Remington Model 870 shotgun, and that was Anthony's weapon. I also noted that Cleon sports a grease gun. Even though he has taken countless lives over there in Vietnam, he had to take a life of one of his fellow soldiers, not by choice, but because he requested it. He said he couldn't go home like this, but Lieutenant Dan said the same thing to Forrest Gump, and he ended up thanking Forrest Gump in the end.
Forrest, I never thanked you for saving my life.
Well, after an honorable discharge, after his 4 years of service in the USMC, he returns back to his home in Northeast Bronx in 1973 with a host of awards. From my knowledge, it looked like he has a Rifle Expert Medal, Silver Star for Valor, National Defense Service Medal, just to notable few, and he has been promoted from Lance Corporal to Sergeant. Very impressive. He runs into his friend Skip, and he looked like he's strung out on heroin. The neighborhood is changing, and so is Skip. There is this disease that a lot of soldiers receive from the terrors of war, from the things they have seen, and they wake up in cold sweats. They don't know what it is, but we soon find out in the 80s that it's PTSD. Life at the military is hard. Unlike today, when using the military can probably get you a top-tier job, but not in 1973. Anthony needed work and couldn't find it anywhere, so he tried to resort to running numbers again, but Kirby was put out of the numbers game by the cops. I think it was because of the introduction of the New York State Lottery, so where people didn't have to rely on the number runners to reward them their money, and it was legal. You do know he met someone special. That's right, his daughter. Before he left the war, he ended up getting Juanita pregnant. His daughter's name is Sarah Marie Curtis. He finally gets a new job at Saul's Prime Meats, and with his new job came a new baby. He's on number 2 with Juanita. Now, at this job, he cuts meats of butchering animals, and the PTSD I talked about earlier, it started to affect him. It gave him flashbacks of the war when seeing all the blood and torture of the animals. Well, Juanita is unhappy with Anthony because his job was low paying and it laid him off, so she brings a guy named Cuddy around to help out with putting money on the table. While he was at war, that's who was supplying the cash. Anthony is good-hearted, but he deserves to have better living conditions, especially when he put his life on the line for Uncle Sam. That was a GI Bill set in place for the veterans of the war that was signed during the World War II, but being a black veteran was hard because they were offered low-paying jobs or no jobs at all and denied benefits, which led to them not being able to fully use the bill. Anthony needed money, so his friends came up with this idea. An armored truck picks up cash once a month and stopped by the post office before they run to DC to burn the money. 4 guards are inside the truck with standard-issue revolvers and 1 shotgun. The armored trucks pulls up to the post office at 6:15 a.m. at 149 in Grand Concourse. It makes 1 drop-off before heading to DC at First Federal Loan and Savings, which is on Noble Street and West. Kirby's job is to position the getaway car and supply the weapons. Jose and Anthony would be under the loading dock when the truck backs into it, and Jose is carrying the explosives for the armored door. Delilah, which is Juanita's sister, would be in a dumpster across from the loading dock. Skippy would be in the alley for a lookout, and so would Cleon. Anthony, Jose, and Delilah had a special mask on so they wouldn't get recognized. A black scully hat with white face paint and black paint for the lips and around the eyes. Everyone is equipped with a pistol except for Anthony. He went back to his weapon of choice in the Marine Corps, a Remington shotgun. Now, things spring into action where everyone is in their position, but out of nowhere, a black guard asks Cleon why is he waiting at the wrong time for the bus. He checks on the bus, and when the guard tried to return to the truck after their stop, Anthony and Jose jumps out, but sadly they are seen by the driver of the armored truck. Now the ambush is noticeable, and the shootout has begun between cops and robbers. As the truck tries to pull off, Jose blows the truck up, leaving 30% of the money left. Delilah has died as a result of the gunfire, and Jose is ran over by the cops. In the final result, 9 people ended up dying during the heist. The money went from being split 6 ways down to 4. Well, 5 if you count the money going to Jose's wife and kids. Anthony, Skip, Kirby, and Cleon has gotten away safely with over $300,000 in cash, or did they? Cleon is giving out $100 bills to people on the streets in Mount Vernon, plus he brought a brand new Cadillac with the money. Now, the cops approached him because they were suspicious of his action, and he told it all. The cops are after Anthony and the rest of the crew. Raids were set out to get them. Skip ended up overdosing on heroin, and Anthony and Kirby were caught and tried in the court. Anthony Curtis, for his participation in this crime, a crime that took the lives of several innocent people, he was hereby sentenced to the custody of the Attorney General of the United States for a period of 15 years to life.